record. Hey everybody, it's Larry Steinhouse, and this is the Larry Steinhouse Show. We are back again doing some more cool stuff. We're going to be talking to some cool people all afternoon, and here we are. We are here with my good friend and student, Todd Radus. Todd Radus is like such a cool guy. I like Todd. Todd's got so much stuff going on that I don't even know if I can properly introduce him. So I actually think that I'm not going to introduce him. I'll tell you why I'm not going to introduce you, Todd. The reason I'm not going to introduce you is because the entire conversation we're going to have right now is all about all the things you're doing. But I really want you to start off with your book, because you have a book that I think is fantastic. And here, I always put in the wrong one. There we go. Here's the book. It's called Your Three Horses, right? And there's the picture. And it's called Applying New Life's Philosophy by Todd Radus. So, Todd, I want you to tell people about the book, what's in the book, and why you wrote the book.
Well, I wrote the book as an introductory to the philosophies of success that Napoleon Hill and Dale Carnegie teach, but in a way that's very introductory for either the person who's very skilled in it will catch everything that's in it, but the new person isn't going to be so overwhelmed with some of the terminology and things from the older books. So what I want to do is bring these philosophies of success to the people who need them the most, the people who haven't been introduced to it yet, while at the same time giving people this metaphorical view of their three horses: desire, passion, and persistence, which are your three powerhouses to success, and give them that image of those horses in their head so that they can easily remember these things that need to go into being successful and finding happiness.
So where did the imagery come from? Because I have to tell you, when I read it, I thought it was a great image. So how did this happen? How did this? Tell me. You got to tell me.
Oh wow. Okay. Well, actually, I was writing another book, which was on the philosophies also, but I kept meditating at night before I went to bed on...
Which is a Napoleon Hill thing to do, by the way.
Yeah, it's exactly where I got it.
Which is kind of cool, right? Okay.
Yeah, exactly where I got it. That I needed an inspiration for something for the book, and the next day I was talking to a coaching student, and literally came out of my mouth, well, you're not applying your three horses, you can't expect to get anywhere. And it caught me, and it caught him, and he said, what are you talking about? I said, your desire, your passion, and your persistence. You're not doing any of it. You're just wishing.
That's amazing. In fact, I love that so much that I think I'm going to use either that or a similar term, because that's exactly right. You're not applying. That's exactly right. They're wishing. That I've seen that so many times, Todd. It drives me nuts. I want to be a millionaire. Great. What are you doing to be a millionaire? I don't know. I'm just going to be one. What do you mean you're just going to be one? It's funny how what you said is definitely true. They're applying none of those tenets, and that's why they are getting nowhere.
Yeah, they don't have desire. Is about what it is you truly want. And I talk in the book about desire because it's really important to have that goal. And I tell people, a lot of people don't know what their purpose is. And sometimes you're pursuing a goal and you'll find your purpose if you're paying attention and looking for it. So set the goal and set it high. That's what I tell them in the book. Make that goal just so high it's like your craziest dream. Because if you only get halfway there, you still made it.
Right. So I don't know if you heard. That's what you're right. So shoot for the stars, you'll hit the moon. Right.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you heard the interview this morning with Todd Corner when we were talking about it. He was a little flustered about his why, and it turned out he didn't even know that he knew his why. He just didn't know it. I don't know if you heard the whole thing, but when I listened to that and I listened to you, I realized that the two are so connected. He's someone. First of all, he's someone who should read your book.
Right.
But he's definitely someone who needs to understand that if he has a definite purpose, he will fulfill that definite purpose.
Right.
And that's the way I feel, too. I mean, my definite purpose is to help people. I just want to help people. So whether it's helping with invest in real estate, helping invest in the stock market, helping better their lives, I don't care. I just want to help people. And sometimes I go over the top trying to help people. And, that's just the way it is. I get accused of being a little abrasive sometimes.
But you know what? For me, I needed that abrasiveness because I came from a 25-year management background. And if you weren't abrasive with me when I first met you, it wouldn't have got through.
Right. And what Todd's referring to is I actually pushed them. I'm telling you, exceeded my wildest expectations of what could have happened for me to push you, give you a little bit of push. And the next thing you know, he's got the book written. You got a radio show coming up too. Tell me about the radio show.
The radio show is called The Mindset Man. It's on inspirednewsradio.com. It's going to have its initial airing episode next Wednesday at 5 p.m., which is the introductory episode. Go and listen to it because it's going to tell you what we're trying to achieve at the show. And we're trying to achieve an introduction to the philosophies of success and happiness to anybody who wants to listen. And the guests that we bring on, we're going to be bringing on entrepreneurs, coaches, psychologists, people who have struggled with disabilities, all these things, because the point of the show is to point out the similarities in how these people all achieve success. Really comes down to these initial mindsets. It all starts between the ears. And it starts, they have a goal. They put their passions behind it. They don't let anyone tell them they can't do it. And every time they fail, they keep going. And the next thing you know, they start to make it. It's your three horses, but it's just from the mindset end. And I want to show people that just because this guy made it in real estate and this guy made it in brokerage funding and this guy made it on Wall Street, this guy made it in private business, they all started with a goal, with a passion to achieve it, and a persistence to do it. And that's your mindset. That's a basic mindset. If you don't get those three things down, you're going nowhere. You're going to spin your wheels. You're gonna fail the first time adversity comes to the door, and you can't. You just got to keep pushing. So
why do you think people fail?
Because they give up.
I totally agree. Because it's a beautiful, beautiful statement. Because they give up, right?
Yeah.
But it's so simple, and it really is that simple. But it's so hard because you've been there, I've been there,
yep.
Where you're like, I'll go another 10 days, and if I don't make a sale, I'm going to quit, right? And then you quit. And then all of a sudden you get that phone call a week later, hey, I want to buy that. Oh, I don't do this anymore.
Right? It's happened to everyone.
I know. It's the 3 feet from gold, idea, Napoleon's old 3 feet from gold idea that happens all the time to me. In fact, when, as you know, we opened investor schooling, right. I said we will never, ever close these doors as long as I'm at the helm. The only time I will no longer be at the helm is when somebody gives me a minimum of $10 million for the company. That's it. So I will go until I can't go anymore, or until we get $10 million minimum for the company. That's really the way I feel. That's my burning desire. I've said it I've said it in this interview, and watch for it because that's how I feel about it. And it isn't the $10 million. And that's the cool part. It has nothing to do with the $10 million. It has to do with the goal of the $10 million. And you get that. I don't know if everybody else does.
Well, that's part of that mindset. And that's why we're going to be bringing people on this radio show who are going to attest. We're going to have one of my coaching students coming on in the first 10 episodes. And you're going to hear what goes on in a coaching session. And he told me, it was funny because he was here for the book launch. And Larry got on. My mother came up to me and said, boy, Larry was on Anthony pretty hard. And I was off talking. So when I called, we were on our coaching call at the end of the week. I'm talking to Anthony. I said, was Larry hard on you? He said, not nearly as much as you. I'm fine.
Wow. I wasn't as hard on him as you are?
No, I'm pretty hard on him. I'm pretty hard on him. But he needs it. And I love the kid, and I want to see him do good. But he's a young man. Right. And the younger you are, the more you have to dedicate yourself to the mindset because it's easier to stray when you're young. You've got other distractions.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, by the way, Steve Teddy's on here. He says hi.
Hi, Steve.
Yeah, if anybody has any questions, please feel free to talk about them. What else do you have going on? Because you got a bunch of exciting things going on. I don't see you as much anymore.
Well, it's too bad because I love coming down here. This is like if I start to get in a rut, I'm just going to come to a mastermind, a school, or I'm going to call you and get a actual coaching session, and that gives me the uplift.
Get your ass in here.
And but I've got a lot going on right now. We've got as of today, I've got 14 show interviews lined up.
Wow.
We've done 4. We've got 4 in the can. Mm-hmm. So we've got I've got Secret Knock with Greg Reed out in San Diego in March. He asked me to bring 125 copies of the books to that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we've got that going on. And my wife is she's getting ready to go off on 2 projects. She'll be gone for about 4 months. So that's going to add to my load.
Oh, that's going to be rough.
I'm used to it.
Oh, okay.
It's been 10 years of this. And this was part of our goals. This was, again, part of what we're doing.
So real quick, I want to just talk about the cover because you mentioned your wife. I want to talk about the cover of your book. Now, this is not a great picture of it because it's kind of bad because of the camera. But tell us about who made this picture.
My wife painted the horses, and she did the graphic design for the cover.
Great. And you know what? She did an awesome job because I really like it. It's really, really, really nice. Really
well,
nice.
We're going to have 100 limited cliches to that.
That's awesome.
We have 10 artist proofs. I happen to know someone who owns number 2 already. Number 1's mine. And number 5 is going to SK with us.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Well, I don't have one.
You're number 2.
Oh, I am? I didn't even know that. I was.
Yeah, you're number.
When you said that, I didn't even know. But thank you. That's pretty awesome. That's pretty
yeah,
awesome.
no, you're number 2. As a matter of fact, she was at the printer yesterday. She rejected it.
Oh boy.
And so she's going to go back down. Once we get an approval, they'll send her 10 proofs, and they'll be numbered 1 through 10. You're getting number 2. I'm getting number 1.
Cool.
They'll be signed, and you'll get a special edition of the book.
Wow.
Where she's signed the picture on the front, and I've signed the book on the inside, personalized.
That is awesome, man. I'm honored. Thank you very much. All right, but you got to tell me about one more thing.
What's that?
Well, not one more thing, but you got to tell me about something specific.
What's that?
The hat.
Oh, my new hat.
Well, all about
I'm
the
so
hat.
excited
So you
about
have,
my new
right.
hat.
So you have become the hat guy.
I am the hat
right?
guy already.
I mean,
it just
if
happened.
If you were to walk in a room and not wear the hat, I don't know if I would know who you were.
Actually, it all started in school here at real estate investing, right here with Crazy Larry. I wore my hat a couple of times in a row for class.
Right.
And then I didn't wear it one week, and my fellow students were going, "Where's your hat?"
You know, I remember that. It's really funny. I actually remember that when somebody said, "Oh, you didn't wear his hat today," and that's exactly what happened. It's really funny.
And that's how it got started. So I started wearing the hat, and I do all this networking here, and I'm outside talking to people and so on. And next thing you know, if I don't wear my hat, people feel odd around me. So I wore that hat, and it's getting pretty worn out. So I ordered a new hat, and I got my new hat in, and I'm not 100% sure on it yet. I'll get used to it.
I actually do like it better than the old one.
Oh, do you? Well,
Yeah,
thank you.
I do. You're right. I mean, I missed the old one, but if I was to say which one I like better, I like this one better on you.
This one's a cleaner one. It's a better quality. I went all out on
I think that's
getting
why.
this
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
I think that's why. So it's like me with the jackets. People are like, I can't go anywhere and speak in public without wearing a crazy jacket now.
No, I love your jacket and Greg's bright colored jackets.
No, and it's so funny because Greg is one of my mentors, obviously one of my greatest influences. But it just so happened that the jackets had nothing to do with Greg. It happened to be an interesting coincidence. That's all. As a matter of fact, the first time I went to Secret Knock and met Greg, I was wearing an all white jacket. And it just happened to be one of those things where I liked those jackets, and and I had the silver one at home already. I had the black one at home with the silver top.
Right.
And then it was just funny that I found it funny that Greg was wearing these crazy jackets. But even the first SK that I went to, he wasn't super crazy. It got worse or better, I guess. Right.
Better, yeah.
Right. As time went by, and so did mine. But again, nothing to do with it. But I was really glad to see that he does the same thing.
Yeah, and I'm becoming the fedora hat guy with a beard, so I don't know if I'll ever be able to shave my beard off at this point.
You won't be right. I do the same thing. I can't take my goatee off because if I take it off, then people won't even recognize me anymore.
Yeah, so I think I'm probably stuck with a beard and stuck with the hat. Fortunately, I love the hat because you don't see a lot of people wearing hats anymore, and I want to stick out in a crowd at this point in my life. I used to hide in a corner and shelter myself and be like, I don't want to stand out. Now it's like I want to stand out as much as possible because I want to talk to people and share what I have to teach.
Sure, absolutely.
And they're not, and believe it or not, people don't come to you if you hide in a corner.
Really? I don't even know if I know how to hide in the corner.
No, it's impossible for you to hide in the corner. It's not going to happen.
When I hide in the corner, it's deliberate. It's like, please, everybody, just leave me alone.
I'm exhausted.
It's one of those days. Right, exactly. It's one of those days. So all right. So let's actually get into who you are, how you do things. Let's talk about a little bit of coaching and what your philosophies are on coaching, how you how you change people's lives. Somebody comes to see you, and I don't know. They say, I'm having trouble maintaining a job. What is your philosophy? How do you make them better?
Well, the first thing I'm going to do.
A tough one for me.
Yeah. Well, the first thing I do is I'm doing 2 free sessions now out for an hour each on the phone or
great.
longer.
Wow.
I schedule an hour and a half because I really want to hear what the person does. I'm very empathetic and I'm very intuitive. So I like to listen to a person, and then I can individually, after a few simple questions, I can usually pick out what they're doing in their heads. Mm-hmm. And that's what I try to do. I try to find out what that limiting belief is that they have in their heads, or that fear mindset, I mean, it's almost always right out of the bat you're gonna see a fear and a limiting belief.
I agree.
Those are the two biggest obstacles that a new coaching student is going to have almost always.
So 6 biggest fears. Come on, what are they? You remember them? I have trouble remembering them.
I have 7 in my book.
Okay.
Loss of love,
Right.
Loss, fear of illness. What are we at? 3? God, because I don't embrace fear anymore, so I've got to look them up.
Isn't that funny, right? Exactly, right?
You know?
Yeah. It's a financial fear. What is it? Fear of poverty.
Fear of poverty.
Right.
Yep.
Fear
of hunger. Fear of
not fear of hunger.
No, it's not fear of hunger.
Is the same as fear of hunger.
There's fear of poverty, and then there's oh my God.
I know it's the same thing. I have trouble remembering them for the same fear of someone liking you. What's it liking you? But what is it? Acceptance.
Fear. Yeah.
Fear of not being accepted.
Fear of rejection.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Fear of rejection
right.
and so on.
Right.
So actually, that's why I created in the book, and I know you caught it. The 3 basic fears, which are instinctual, and the fear that you're taught. You know, it's an imposed fear, and then imaginary. And that imaginary one's the most dangerous one.
So what is I know that's true. So what are some of the fears that you have that you would consider imaginary?
I don't have them anymore.
That's great.
I used to have a lot of them.
Talk about when you overcame.
The biggest one, the biggest imaginary fear that I had is like I'm not going to get my bills paid. You know, a lot of people have jobs, they have paychecks coming in, and they're still worried about next month's bills. Well, whatever you did last month, you're going to do again this month, and you're doing it again next month, and you're embracing this imaginary fear that something's going to happen between now and then to change it. And the problem is if you interlink the law of attraction with this imaginary fear, you end up creating the situation where you have less money unintentionally. It happens subconsciously. And that's where the danger in an imaginary fear is. I say imaginary fears are the most insidious fears we have because none of it's going to happen.
So how does somebody overcome an imaginary fear?
They have to face the fact that they're having imaginary fears, that their fears aren't based in anything in reality. And people go, oh, it's a reality. I have bills next month. Well, that's the idea you have to let go of.
Right.
Instead of focusing on not having money for the bills, you have to focus on generating the income for having the bills, and you'll have it. And that's one of the hardest things to do is to let go of that false security of a job and that you can create more abundance on your own. But if you have a job, you can still create abundance on the side. Today they call it a side hustle. You know, so everybody who's anybody's got a side hustle going. Everyone I know who came through here today that's friends of mine has got 4, 5, 6 side hustles going.
Of course, absolutely right. I mean, I got 4 LLCs, 4 active LLCs.
Yeah, I have 3 LLCs, and then I've got the multi-level marketing, the radio show, the book.
We had Eric in here earlier. Yeah,
Eric's a powerhouse. I mean, the man's an animal when it comes to this stuff. But it's his attitude. He just knows he can do it. It's in his head.
That's right.
And if you can get around a person like Eric, you will start to behave like Eric.
I agree, and that's another thing too. So you become the 5 people you hang around with, right?
Yeah.
So this is always an interesting statement. So, and I think about this. I become the 5 people I hang around with, and I really believe it's true because I find it funny that number one. Well, so let's talk about some interesting coincidences, right? So just the Greg Reed jacket coincidence.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a coincidence that he's all into that, and I'm all into that. So now I hang around Greg Reed. But how odd is it that we both had that jacket thing going on? Mm-hmm. One of the things that absolutely fascinates me is my wholesaling business called EZ, the letter E, the letter Z, Out Real Estate. That's the name of I bought this website 4 years ago. My partner happens to be Evan Zaremba. So that makes total sense, right? That the website's called EZ Out Real Estate, right?
Right.
Except I bought the website 4 years before I met him.
Yeah.
How incredible is that?
Synchronicities.
Yeah, it's incredible, that kind of stuff that happens.
Well, I find it amazing because my wife and I talked many times about the coincidences between you and I. And this is an interesting story. You know it. It's been a while since I told it. But when I made the mental decision to change my life about 2 years ago. The first thing I knew I needed to do was create beneficial associations. I needed to find a coach and hire him so that I would get those little shoves and the things that I was doing wrong pointed out to me. But that coach had to be schooled in Napoleon Hill and Dale Carnegie and these types of philosophies, because that's what I'm studying. That's what I knew back and forth. So I went around to about 17 meetups and events in my area and worked my way out slowly till I hit this one. And I came to your class, and I walked up to you at the end of the class, and I said, I want you to help me do real estate.
And the funniest part was, you wanted me to help you, and what did I say?
You didn't want to help me. And I put all this work into finding you, and I'm like, here's a guy who's speaking my language. And then my wife pointed out, she says, Larry loves doing his radio shows and his podcasts, and look at what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Right. It's so funny. And just for you guys who don't know, I wrote the forward in Todd's book. I can't even tell you what's in it. You have to read the forward in Todd's book.
Yeah, it's very touching forward.
It really tells a story of what my first impression was of Todd and my now impression of Todd. And it's great. And you'll get the idea. And I mean, it's not great that I'm not taking kudos for writing it. I'm glad I wrote it, but I'm just the reality of what happened to Todd is what excites me about the forward.
The forward, I tell people to read the forward and pay close attention, because it wasn't 2 years ago I was there. And my own coach and mentor, who's now one of my biggest supporters and a very close friend of mine, was like, I don't want to take this guy's money. I don't think I can help him. And you know what? I understand why now, because I look back at myself on that day. Yeah, sure. And I was fear controlled when I came in here.
Absolutely.
And that was my biggest problem. It was like I was intimidated by the very people I wanted to be around, and that fear prevents you from ever interacting with the very people you need to be interacting with.
So I have an interesting confession to make to you, not about that, but one of my fears when I opened the school was that I wouldn't help anybody, that I could possibly be a complete fraud. Now, not that I would intentionally be a complete fraud, but what if I open this school? What if I open this coaching? What if I start doing this and no one benefits from it?
And from our perspective, we don't see how that's even possible.
well, at this point, I don't believe that anymore. But that was my fear. So think about the fear. Think about the people I've helped. Think about just you alone. I mean, I'm so grateful that you recognize that I helped you. But I have to tell you that I really believe it was in you the whole time, and all I did was give you a nudge.
Well, it was there, and I knew it was there, but I also knew that I wasn't around the right people to bring it out. Mm-hmm. I knew that in my heart, and that's why I was on such a search. But when I came here and you talked about picking up pennies and 3 feet from gold, right. I'm like, oh, my God, he's reading all the books I'm reading. I found my guy, and he's teaching it right here. I think what's really been fantastic, and I do wish I could get down here more, but as I grow, it's harder to make that long trip every day. I made it as long as I could twice a week.
No, it's great, and everything about you. I mean, it's just so much fun. So why don't we talk real quick? So why don't you tell people how they can get a hold of you, how they can get your book, and how start with how they can get your book.
Okay, well, you can go to Amazon and search Todd Radus, which is easier than your 3 horses, RADUS, 2 Ds, or you can go to toddradus.com. There's a link there, and the radio show link will be at toddradus.com also. Once it's on air, so I can link you straight to the broadcast page.
Right, and it's RADUS, correct?
Yes, RADUS, Todd with 2 Ds, .com. And then there's also my business site, which just is going to be integrated into toddradus.com, but that's trsuccess.com.
trsuccess.com.
Yeah, you can follow me on Facebook, TR Success, on Twitter, and you can search trsuccess.com on Facebook, and there's the Mindset Man on Facebook, and that's the name of the radio show, the Mindset Man.
So how do they find the radio show?
InspiredNewsRadio.com. Drop a host. There's a click for host. Pick Todd Radus, and you'll be right at the homepage for the show.
Beautiful. What's next?
What's next? Grow this radio show.
All right.
I mean, that is really. I finally reached a point where I've decided to become very focused. We've talked before about flexibility and goals. But there is a point where you have to really narrow your focus. So I've got the real estate on one hand, and quite frankly, every time I make enough money to buy a house, that's where it's going.
It's great. Okay.
Yeah, it's going to go into one business, and God love you, because I did this. All my businesses, and even the Mindset Man is now a registered name, are all
Beautiful.
all subsidiaries of Aurora Investing, which is my first company,
LLC, right.
so that I can make the money here, switch it over, invest it, and then and now we're rolling. So but it all came from associating with the right people. You and Phil, most of all.
Thanks,
I think
appreciate
Phil's up right after me. Is he here?
I'm not sure. I have to check. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm sure
I think
he's here.
Phil's-
I'm sure he's here. All right, so why don't you wave goodbye to everybody?
Bye, everybody.
And we will see you on the other side. Thanks so much.
Oh, it's too quick. Bye.